We've seen Democrats melt down before, but what we just saw in the last 12 hours after the Senate passed the reconciliation package, it's the meltdown to beat all meltdowns. It's unbelievable. We're going to show you every little liberal tear that's shed from those senators and congressmen, and every opportunity we have, we'll point out to you that they are lying. They're all lying to you about this bill. In fact, the worst lies are about Medicaid and what Republicans are doing to Medicaid and who's going to get kicked off Medicaid and how many people are going to die because they're getting kicked off Medicaid. Donald Trump actually did a hell of a lot of pushback on that himself. So did our pal Scott Jennings, and we're going to show you that as well. Plus, the media, they're just the best, aren't they? From Jake Tapper to Joy Reid to Trump winning a huge settlement for defamation against CBS News. We're going to give you all those details so you can hate the media that much more. All that coming up, plus a whole lot more. And when I say a whole lot more, I mean great jokes from me, this guy. Who doesn't want that? We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Maybe now they're not great jokes, but they're jokes that have a lot of heart and effort behind them. And I would just appreciate it if you just gave us a thumbs up right now for my effort to tell jokes. Just give us a thumbs up. Thumb up this video. Stick your thumb right up this video. Hey, we're days away from what's been dubbed the Rio Reset. It may be the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years, I'm told. On July 6th, the BRICS nations, that's Russia, China, India, Iran. Are they still around? Is that a thing? Iran? Okay. And many more. They're expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar, possibly cratering its values. Now, they've already been laying the groundwork. See, their central banks have been methodically divesting from the dollar and U.S. bonds in favor of gold. So how can you protect your IRA or 401k from the potential fallout from this meeting? Diversify with gold from Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold can be a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is, well, right now. Get a free info kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word Larry to 989898. Larry, why would you do that? Oh, that's my name. Yes, text my name to 989898. July 6th marks this major meeting among the nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information so you can diversify your retirement savings. Text Larry to 989898. Claim your free info kit from Birch Gold. Do it. Ahoy. That's Spanish for today. Thanks. Well, yesterday, as we announced live on this program, the reconciliation package known as One Big Beautiful Bill passed the Senate by a 51-50 margin. J.D. Vance casting the tiebreaker, and the meltdown began. Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut who's grown a beard to look super butch and masculine, his video that he put out about this may be, it's the Gone with the Wind of senatorial selfie videos. It's the greatest work of art perhaps I have ever seen. I'm going to show that one to you in a couple of minutes. But first, I need to break bad news to you. Chuck Schumer yesterday, the minority leader of the Democrats, he seems to be a bit of a loser. He hasn't been able to succeed in anything, messaging, issues, votes, filibusters. I mean, he's been hapless so far this year since Trump became president again. But yesterday, guys, sit down. I need to prepare you. He scored a big one. I mean, a huge victory yesterday. A lot of media isn't covering it. I don't know why, because this is a game changer, my friends. Take a look at this video. This was put together by his Senate staff, by the way, because they really wanted to celebrate his incredible feat yesterday. Take a look at this giant victory from Chuck Schumer.
Mr. President, I raise a point of order against page 1, lines 3 to 5 of the pending amendment, which violates section 313B1A of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974.
The point of order is sustained. The text will be stricken.
You see what he did? I'm sorry. I'm just still. Sometimes things happen in American history that you just have to pause and realize the weight, the importance, the significance of the moment. And I'm still soaking it in. It's still affecting me. I had trouble sleeping last night knowing that he did this. He struck from the record the name One Big Beautiful Bill. Officially, as far as the United States Senate is concerned now, in the congressional record, the reconciliation package that will make permanent Trump's tax cuts that you're enjoying right now. In other words, if it didn't pass, your taxes would get raised by between $1,500 and $2,500 probably for your typical family. No, they will not. They will stay as low as they have been since Trump passed this tax bill. Plus, the tax cut on your tips, if you make tips as part of your wages, your overtime that you make right now, no taxes on any of that. For a ton of people on Social Security, there won't be taxes, or at least the taxes you pay on the Social Security will be modified. Huge increases to spending to solidify the border wall, plus a huge increase for Homeland Security, so Border Patrol and ICE can have more personnel. All those things that are in this package, a huge bill, an important bill, a significant bill that sort of codifies so much of what President Trump just won on historically last November after he promised during the campaign. He's going to get it done within 6 months, it looks like. All of those things locked in, promises made, promises kept. But Chuck Schumer has forced them to change the name of the bill, and it is no longer One Big Beautiful Bill. That is the courage that it took for Chuck Schumer to do that. I mean, honestly, sometimes we don't appreciate the giants who walk among us. Chuck Schumer, you're a great American. However, after that victory, the Democrats lost their minds. They all decided to take to their cell phones. And somebody, some consultant somewhere told all of these Democrats in the U.S. Senate that it would be really cool and relatable if they did selfie videos talking straight into their smartphone vertically, because the kids like that on their Insta. And they all decided to emote to you, the American people. And it's kind of glorious. Here's Cory Booker with lots of jump cuts. I mean, so many edits in this video sort of make Cory Booker look as coherent as Joe Biden did in his final year in office. Watch.
I'm just off the floor for the longest vote-a-rama in Senate history. Democrats stood against this moral obscenity of a bill. And the amendments that they voted against and they blocked were just common sense amendments. We filed amendments to stop them from gutting Medicaid. We filed amendments to save healthcare for people who will lose it. We filed amendments to try to save things like SNAP for hungry children. We filed amendments that simply said, okay, don't give people making hundreds of millions of dollars a year more of a tax cut. We filed amendments to do everything we could, from clean energy to making sure that children have more economic security. We filed amendments to lower the cost of prescription drugs, to protect Planned Parenthood, to protect the Affordable Care Act. And again, we tried to block these awful tax cuts to the wealthiest amongst us who don't need our help, and that would help to blunt the ridiculously large deficit hole, trillions of dollars they're going to blow into our financial security as a nation as a result of this bill. Every time we raise policies that the majority of Americans, independents, Republicans, and Democrats agree on, Republicans blocked us again and again throughout the night into the morning till now. Remember, in the House, we just need four votes, just a handful of votes that switch our way.
Hey guys, how's my shot look? Am I in the frame? Is it okay? How do I look? Is it close enough? Should I zoom in more? No, it's fine. Is the shot good? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Anything else? Any other suggestions? Yeah, Senator, you might want to remove the portrait of P. Diddy from the wall. How about this Frederick Douglass picture instead? Wait, what's wrong with P. Diddy? And we'll tell you later. But here, trust me. Put Frederick Douglass up there. It'll look better. I promise. Cory Booker, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just take this moment to remind you. as you see all of these senators who are going to be telling you how horrible this bill is and all of the terrible things and how it's going to ruin this country, which, by the way, the more people like Cory Booker tell me they oppose this bill, the more I love it. Okay. Number one. But number two, all of these people who are telling you what's going to happen because of this bill, you know, they're predicting the future. They're telling you what they anticipate happening because this bill is going to be passed. Let me remind you that every single one of them told you that it was impossible to secure the border unless you passed their bipartisan amnesty bill about a year and a half ago. They said, we can't. Biden can't shut down the border. We can't shut down the border. Nobody can shut down the border unless you pass this bill. And since the bill didn't get passed, it's just going to be chaos. Every one of them told you that. So bear that in mind as you hear them tell you what's going to happen now that this bill has been passed. Okay. Did I mention Chris Murphy from Connecticut? He grew a beard because he's got to look butcher than Pete Buttigieg. And I got to tell you, Chris, you got more work to do. You're not quite there yet. But here's Chris and his Oscar-winning performance, best supporting them in U.S. Senate office.
I am shaking with fury over what just happened. That's the most monstrous piece of legislation I've ever voted on in my time in Congress. What do those Republican senators go back and tell their constituents that they did? In the final speech.
I'll tell you what they do. They go back and they say they just supported Donald Trump, the man you just voted for president by an overwhelming number. You know, the man who's got the highest popularity of a president in the last 40 years. That's what they tell their constituents. They tell their constituents that they just passed the reconciliation package that codified the Trump tax cuts from 2017. And if they hadn't done that, their constituents' taxes would have gone up by like between $1,500 and $2,500 on average next year. They tell them that any person who works in their district who makes overtime or tips will have that income tax-free. That's what they tell their constituents, Chris Murphy. That's what they tell them. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that a rhetorical question? I'm out of line. I apologize. I just thought it deserved an answer.
The only thing they mentioned was the money for the border. But what more can they do? They've already militarized the border. They've already created an immigration police state. They didn't mention anything about the fact this bill kicks 17 million people off of their health care. There are going to be thousands of people who die in this country because they lose their access to health care. There'll be tens of thousands of other lives that are needlessly destroyed. This is the biggest cut in child nutrition in the history of the country, I think. There are going to be moms and dads who literally watch their children go hungry. And why? Because they wanted to pad the pockets of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago friends. That's the only reason that they are throwing people off of healthcare, that they are rendering little children hungry so that some billionaire can get an extra $200,000 tax cut. It's just repulsive what they did. Now, it hasn't passed the House. There is a small but not insignificant chance that we can stop this bill before it gets to the president's desk. So let's get to work. Let's keep fighting. Let's not give up. Even if it does pass the House, then we have to tell the world what they did. We have to make sure that every single senator, every single congressman who voted for this from a swing state or a swing district never sets foot in this building again. This is a moral abomination, what they just did. And for what? For what? Just to make the lives of the rich and famous a little bit easier? So we'll do our work. I'm not giving up. I'm going to do everything I can to stop this bill from passing the House of Representatives. And it has real issues as it heads to the House of Representatives. But if it does become law, we're going to make sure these people pay politically for what they did.
The acting lessons are really paying off. He's doing a great job. Good for him. By the way, did I mention that this guy told you that the border couldn't be secured a year and a half ago unless the bipartisan amnesty package was passed? Yeah, he and all of his friends told you that. So everything he just told you about this bill, take it with a grain of salt. That said, could you do me a favor and just screenshot this real fast and use it on social media whenever appropriate? because this one right here, that's a Hall of Famer, baby. That will go down in history. This may be the greatest moment in Chris Murphy's senatorial career. I don't care what happens in your life. I don't care if your wife forgets to bring home your favorite beer from the grocery store, this is the only appropriate response. What a guy. Again, someone in Washington, D.C. told these clowns that it's super cool if they do a selfie video. And whoever that is, I want to throw them in the Potomac because this is annoying. As if she weren't annoying enough. This is even worse.
Leaving the Senate now. At the end of the vote, when the Republicans won, they cheered. They cheered over taking away health care from around 17 million people. They cheered over giving huge tax breaks to a handful of billionaires. They cheered over running up the national debt by another $3.5 trillion. This bill, it's bad. It's bad economically. It's bad morally. This bill is just wrong. But we stay in the fight. We stay in the fight. We stay in the fight. And we proved why we stay in the fight, because actually there are pieces of this bill that we got better. We got the tax on solar and wind knocked out, and that's going to help with clean energy. We got a few different pieces and made them better. So that's reason number one.
Do you see how they all have the same script too? I mean, they were told to make these videos and they were given sort of talking points and guidelines and an outline on how to make it. They act like we don't all see the exact same thing that they're doing. They act like the internet isn't something that, goes beyond the state lines where they're trying to communicate to their voters. They act like we can't see the videos that they created. Also, did you see her eyes? Did she have a staffer like dice onions right before she started rolling so it looked like she was crying? That's just sad and pathetic and annoying and obnoxious. You know what? It's so annoying. It's so obnoxious that I'm reaching a point where that. So you got Cory Booker, you got Chris Murphy, you got Elizabeth Warren. I mean, how much worse can it get? Okay, it got worse. Great. Let's hear it. Just go ahead. Do it to me. Go ahead.
Just leaving the Senate now. Sadly, the big, ugly, awful bill just passed by the narrowest of margins. 50 Republicans plus the vice president brought in to break the tie. This is a tragedy of a bill, a shameful bill, a selfish bill that will take money away from our kids and grandkids. It'll raise the debt and deficit to do so, to fund tax cuts for super wealthy people. It will cut millions and millions of people off of healthcare. It will take food away from hungry families. I've been in the Congress for some time. This is the most shameful act I've ever seen. We're going to fight this now in the House. This is still not a foregone conclusion. A lot of Republicans, I think more than a dozen of them, said to fix all the horrible Medicaid cuts. Well, we fixed them all right. We made them worse. The Senate Republicans made those cuts even deeper, about $1 trillion taking away from healthcare. So we're going to fight this now in the House. We need your active support. Reach out to people, reach out to folks in those districts, have them call their representatives and write. We need to kill this big ugly bill.
I know you're new in the Senate. You've got some experience in the House. And it's weird because you actually represent a district around North Hollywood, Glendale, Burbank area. So there's a lot of, film industry types there, actors, stuff like that. I got to tell you, man, you're not bringing it. Okay. You seem like you're sort of half-hearted. Was this a dress rehearsal that just sort of made its way onto social media without anybody's approval? Because you could have brought more heat. You could have been more effective. You could have brought some more emotion. You could have made a compelling argument. For instance, like if you're going to do it right. Just sounds sad. That's super sad. All right, so that's the Senate all getting their talking points and their instructions and marching orders by a political consultant who I want to throw into the Potomac. But it goes beyond that. Check it out, guys. It's the governor of Maryland. Now, get used to his little shiny noggin there. Lex Luthor here, they're going to run him for president. His name's Wes Moore. He's ruined Maryland, but he's got a really charming, enigmatic smile, and he's great at talking to the camera during selfie videos. And that's pretty much all it takes at this point. A friend of mine calls him the Timu Obama. Basically, it's like, all right, I can't really afford the full price Obama. I can't go to the store. I don't have enough money. Have you got anything that's like an Obama, but, a little cheaper, a little easier to afford? Oh, yeah, we got the Timu Obama. It's fat. It's just like a regular Obama. All right, Timu Obama, what do you got for us? Please tell me you've got a new script. Please.
Listen. I just finished my latest brief on Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. And I cannot explain enough how completely heartless this bill is and how deeply devastating it will be to the people of the state of Maryland. And here's a snapshot. If you are a multimillionaire, congratulations, because this bill is for you. But if you are everyone else, if you're all of our working families, one of our seniors, our public servants, you are getting hosed.
So how's my shot look, everybody? I framed it. I think I'm ready to do the video you want me to do. Gee, Governor Moore, is there any way we can move you away from that wall with the big collage of photos of you and P. Diddy? That's probably not sending the message that we want. Is there anything else you got? How about over here where the books are? How about in front of the bookshelf? Books? What? Those came with the governor's mansion. I never even touched those things. What are you talking about? Why would I do that? Trust me, it'll look like you're smart. We'll put you right over there. And, it needs a little touch, though. Can we just put a folded flag up on the shelf? Oh, yeah, I got one of those. Hang on a second. No, Governor. No, not the Palestinian flag. No, the American flag. I don't have one of those. All right. Well, tell you what, we'll get one here as soon as possible, and then we'll be ready. We'll have the shot that we want. That's Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. He, by the way, along with the last two senators I showed you, Adam Schiff from California and Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, they have something in common. They all told you that the border couldn't be secured unless the bipartisan amnesty bill was passed. They lied to you about that. So when they tell you what's in this bill with all their tears and outrage and selfie videos, just take it with a grain of salt because they lie to you a lot. They've lied to you a whole lot. Senator Mark Warner of Virginia did not do the selfie video, strangely. Maybe he'd had a long lunch, if you know what I mean. But he did put this deceitful post out on X. He says he's sick and tired of Republican senators coming to me privately saying, Mark, keep speaking up. You're our conscience. I don't want to be their damn conscience. I want them to vote their conscience. Wow, what a guy. Mark Warner, by the way, said he was only going to run for 2 terms in the Senate. He's now finishing up his 3rd term. That was a big lie. He also said he would never vote for the Affordable Care Act if it kept you from keeping the doctor that you like or keeping the health insurance you like, which, of course, that's exactly what the Affordable Care Act did. So he lied about that, too. Guess what else Mark Warner said? Mark Warner said that the border couldn't be secured without passing a bipartisan amnesty bill. That's right. Just like all the other Democrats were showing you. He lied about that, too. You know what else Mark Warner lied about? This, because nobody believes that this happened. Nobody believes anybody went up to Mark Warner and said, you're our conscience. I don't think Mark Warner's children go up to him and say that. It's another lie. Mark Warner, if this is true, if you have weaselly, duplicitous, lying Republican senators who are coming up to you and showing the moral courage of a mound of stale Jell-O, then why don't you name them? Why don't you tell us who they are? Exactly. Meanwhile, over in the House, they weren't doing selfie videos, but they were taking up their 60 seconds of floor time to tell you all about this bill. Again, all of them told you they couldn't secure the border without the bipartisan amnesty bill, so they lied. a lot. And the more they hate this bill, I got to tell you, the more I want this thing passed today. Because if these people hate it, it's got to be good.
So I said to my Republican colleagues, what's wrong with you people? In this bill, you provide a $2 billion tax break for gun silencers, but you cut SNAP benefits for vulnerable families, which, by the way, is on average $2 per person per meal. Jesus Christ, what are you people thinking? I reserve my time.
I do love the performance art aspect of this. You know, he practiced that in front of the bathroom mirror before he went out there, especially the arm gestures. Jesus Christ, he says. Meanwhile, over on CNN, it was a little less animated, but just as duplicitous.
Where's the John McCain of the day who says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to just serve myself or my state. I'm going to make sure we do the right thing by the entire country. When they tried to have him vote to undo the Affordable Care Act, taking health care away from millions. This is something that many of these Republicans have wished for a very long time. Cruelty, harm to their very constituents.
That's right. Republicans wish to do harm to their constituents. That's what we stay awake. We stare at the ceiling fan as it rotates in mind-numbing monotony, thinking, how can I hurt my neighbors more? How can I destroy their lives? Oh, I know how to do it. How about we make the tax cuts of 2017 permanent so they don't automatically get raised at the end of this year the way Democrats want, so that everyone has to pay a couple $1,000s more in taxes. And by the way, while I'm at it, this will really hurt my neighbors. The best way to hurt my neighbors is to pass a brand new tax cut that Trump promised on the campaign trail that will eliminate taxes on overtime and on tips. That'll really harm my neighbors. Of course, my neighbor is a congressman from the Democrat Party, so I guess that's why it'll harm them. You know what we need in this little compilation of unhinged Democrats melting down? We need us a little AOC.
On this point of tax on tips, as one of the only people in this body who has lived off of tips, I want to tell you a little bit about the scam of that tax, a little bit of the fine print there. The cap on that is $25,000. While you're jacking up taxes on people who make less than $50,000 across the United States, while taking away their SNAP, while taking away their Medicaid, while kicking them off of the ACA and their health care extensions. So if you're at home and you're living off tips, you do the math. Is that worth it to you? Losing all your health care, not able to feed your babies, not being able to put a diaper on their bottom in exchange for what? This bill is a deal with the devil.
She looks different, doesn't she? I mean, the socialism is the same. The lies are the same. Hey, guess what AOC said back last year during the campaign? She said the border couldn't be secured unless they got their bipartisan amnesty bill. She lied, didn't she? So why would you believe this? She looks great. Although there's a more feminine version of AOC in the House from the state of Maryland. I'm so sorry. That's Jamie Raskin. I apologize. I did something about anyway, he was on CNN.
No taxes on tips, which is part of this bill for working people who work on a tipped wage. Do you support that?
You know, I haven't looked seriously at it because I haven't thought they were serious about it.
Does anybody believe that? This thing has been in the news for over a year since Trump proposed it on the campaign trail last year. By the way, AOC, Jamie Raskin, Kamala Harris ran on this. She stole it from Trump. So now they're all railing against no taxes on tips. Raskin's claiming he's never looked at it because he didn't really take it seriously. Your own candidate ran on this. It's almost like they're lying. Just like they lied last year when they said they couldn't secure the border without you know the rest of it. You see, I keep repeating that because all they're doing is telling you what's going to happen if this bill passes. And you don't know. You haven't read it. They haven't even read it. They've got a talking point. It's a script. And they're telling you this. And you've got to think, okay, so should I believe them? Well, what's their track record? Well, I'm telling you their track record. They told you the border couldn't be secured unless you passed their bill. They told you there was no mechanism in the law as it stands right now unless you gave Joe Biden and Kamala Harris more power. Otherwise, nothing could be done. And how'd that work out? Were they telling you the truth? Go check the border. Raskin then took his show on the road and actually did a performance art piece. These theater kids, they're great. He actually wrote a monologue.
Found the preamble to this big ugly bill. We the billionaires and our king, in order to deform and sicken our union, establish injustice, ensure domestic servility, weaken our people's defenses, undermine the general welfare, and reserve to ourselves and our posterity staggering debt servitude for eternity, do hereby instruct the Republicans in Congress to strip 17 million people of their health care, increase co-pays, deductibles, and premiums for everyone else, cut 42 million people off of nutritional assistance, increase the national debt by $4 trillion, trash renewable energy systems, increase our electric bills for the carbon kings, all to weaken and destroy the Constitution of the people of these United States of America. Please include this preamble in the legislative record.
Wow, that is some fantastic creative writing. Although if he had just put it to a rhyme and a hip hop beat, Lin-Manuel Miranda would actually put it in the new version of Hamilton he's working on. But either way, Jamie, great job. Honestly, that was just a great take on the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. I don't think Thomas Jefferson is losing any sleep right now about his legacy. Meanwhile, Representative Maxwell Frost may have taken the cake in a committee hearing. Who's Maxwell Frost, you may ask? I have no idea. But he's a Democrat, so he had to melt down yesterday. It's the law.
Yeah, see, they say they're pro-life because they want the baby to be born, go to school, and get shot in the school. Die in the school, die on the streets. No. That is what they say. I moved to strike his words.
You've gone over. We were going to be quiet, but you've gone over now.
I meant every word.
We are going to strike your words. But on the other hand, it might be good to leave your words. Might be good to leave your words. Because that's how you feel. But you are not going to come into this room and impugn our integrity. You will not. We are pro-life people from conception to natural death. Most of us are. And don't you come in here and say, we want to preserve life so people can get shot.
That's what I've seen.
Are you through, Ms. Ledger-Fernandez? I hope so.
Good for Virginia Fox. The indignant reaction was completely appropriate, if not a little bit too measured. If that scumbag had said something like that to me in a formal setting, I'd have really only one possible way to respond to him. See, it works for all occasions, guys. Thank you, Chris Murphy. The gift that keeps on giving. What can I tell you? Bottom line on yesterday's meltdown from the Democrats over the reconciliation package passing the Senate is pretty obvious. They all had their talking points. They all had their scripts. They all had their plan with their cameras and their social media strategy. They had it all laid out. The only thing they didn't have is the votes. They had nothing to say about it. They couldn't do a damn thing. Same in the House right now. This is the culmination of President Trump's first 6 months in office, and it will solidify not just his tax cuts from 2017, but all of the tax cuts that he promised you during the campaign, won on decisively, and it will also further strengthen the security at the border and the ICE agents' opportunity to actually deport the people who shouldn't be in this country right now, the illegal immigrants that need to be deported. And so many of them who are seeing the writing on the wall don't want to go to Alligator Alcatraz and are self-deporting on their own. That's why it's going to pass. That's why Republicans will fall in line, even those who are not thrilled with it, because they've got to pick a side to be on right now. They can be on the side of the president, who, by the way, has a 95% success rate when he backs a Republican in a primary. And don't think those Republicans in the House don't realize that. They can be on his side, or they can be on the side of all those Democrats you just saw with all the lies that they told. Think about it for a minute, and I'll say it one more time. If all of those Democrats you just saw hate this bill that much, to be honest with you, that's the greatest endorsement I could ever think of. This thing may be the greatest piece of legislation ever crafted. All right, it's not, but they hate it, so count me in. Whoop, hang on. What's our tipping point on this one? Oh, yeah, Paul Begala. All right. Hey, remember Paul Begala? Yeah. He's the guy who got Bill Clinton elected in the 90s. He's been lying about Republicans, well, his entire career. And they dragged him onto the set of CNN yesterday to claim that Medicaid is going to be destroyed and that people are going to die because of Republicans. Now, I know you may think you just clicked on a video from 20 years ago, because that's exactly what Paul Begala and the Democrats have been saying for decades. It's the same talking point over and over again. Once again, it's a lie, but his behavior yesterday, when that lie was pointed out, was beyond bizarre. I think Paul Begala has lost it. We're going to show you his maniacal reaction to Scott Jennings coming up in just a second. But first, how about the commander-in-chief himself? He was asked about the so-called cuts to Medicaid yesterday, and he went right after it. Take a look.
Are there concerns about the Medicaid cuts, though? Mr.
No,
President?
we're not going to be playing with Medicaid.
An estimated
Only waste, fraud,
11.8
and
million
abuse.
Americans could lose
Yeah,
their
the
coverage. Are you
Democrats have
breaking
it
your
wrong.
promise?
Yeah, waste, fraud, and abuse. In fact, if you look at what's gone on, we've gone way back. We take care of Medicaid. We take care of Medicare. They will blow Medicare and Medicaid because they have no idea what they're doing. Just like they don't have any idea what they did on the border. They have no idea. Medicaid is in big trouble with the Democrats.
So you promise anyone who loses their health care coverage that is because of waste, fraud, and abuse?
Waste, fraud, only waste, fraud, and abuse, which is what everybody wants.
And that is absolutely correct. Let me just be clear here, because see, Democrats, all they're doing is saying all these people are going to lose Medicaid. All these people are going to use Medicaid. And nobody then follows up and says, well, wait a second. Those people who are going to lose Medicaid, are they supposed to be on Medicaid in the first place? You see, not everybody deserves Medicaid. Not everybody should be on Medicaid. Not everybody should be receiving Medicaid. There are actually laws and provisions and criteria for those who are legally entitled to Medicaid, if you want to use the word entitled, which I'm not a fan of. And those laws are currently being violated. Those laws have been changed. Those laws have been modified. You see, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the government intervened and shut down businesses and threw people out of work through no fault of their own. And of course, they were concerned that they were going to lose their health coverage. And so certain modifications were made to the qualifications for people to receive Medicaid benefits because, I mean, it's appropriate, I suppose. If you were working for a company and you had your health insurance covered by your employer and suddenly you're out of work because the government told you you had to stay home because of the pandemic, well, it's not your fault. And so to make up the difference, the government made some modifications and qualifications. Well, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the pandemic's over, been over for quite some time. And so why are those people still getting their Medicaid benefits? There are 27-year-old able-bodied men who could easily get a job and work, who are currently getting Medicaid benefits. And yes, if this bill passes, they will lose that coverage. And you know what? That's good. They shouldn't be getting that coverage. They shouldn't be getting your money to pay for their health insurance, Viagra, or whatever it is they're using it for. They're able-bodied young men. They should get a job. If they can't get a job, they should at least show they're getting a job or trying to get a job. If they can't secure a job, guess what this bill demands? That they at least volunteer somewhere for 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week. In other words, get off your lazy butt and do something. And if you're truly disabled, well, then you get health insurance from other places, not from this Medicaid fund. So the Democrats and the people in the media will never tell you those details that I just laid out. There are two pools of people who will, in fact, lose Medicaid. That pool of people, and then the other pool of people that we were hoping would be the illegal aliens, the illegal immigrants, the people who have come to this country illegally and now are getting state health care benefits, like in California, where Gavin Newsom decided that he would do that. Then he nearly bankrupted the state, and now they're borrowing, stealing money from the federal Medicaid doles to be able to supplement the state's decision to give it to illegal immigrants. No questions asked. That's right. If you're in California and you're a legal citizen in this country, your family's been here for 7 generations, you're not getting state-funded health insurance. But if you just broke the law and came here illegally and you've been here 6 months, yeah, Gavin Newsom's paying your medical bills. Democrats, what are you going to do? So the other pool of people who would lose their Medicaid benefits, again, are people that aren't supposed to be getting it in the first place, illegal immigrants to this country. Now, the Senate parliamentarian over the weekend decided that that couldn't get passed through the Senate rules on reconciliation. They would have to actually get 60 votes. And of course, Democrats defeated that. Remember that. Remember that. Democrats in the Senate defeated the amendment that would have kept illegal immigrants from getting Medicaid. You need to remember that, because yesterday, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took to the X platform on social media and made this claim. Look at it, read it, soak it in, envelop it into your brain. She said not one federal dollar currently goes to giving undocumented people Medicaid, and you know that. Can I repeat the news item from over the weekend that Democrats were celebrating? The Senate voted down an amendment that would have made it illegal to give Medicaid benefits to illegal immigrants. AOC is now saying that not one federal dollar goes to Medicaid benefits for illegal immigrants. So if that's true, AOC, why would we need an amendment to keep federal dollars to pay for the Medicaid benefits for illegal immigrants? Why did Democrats block that bill? If not $1. Yeah, it seems to me somebody's lying here. Have you noticed the pattern? Every single Medicaid claim they're making is a lie, and it's been that way literally for decades. So let's turn to CNN, where they lie for a living. Scott Jennings, again, did a yeoman's work pushing back on lie after lie after lie after lie about this bill. If it's so bad, why do they have to lie about it? Ask yourself that while you watch this.
Debt and the deficit are the two existential problems that are facing this nation. And if you don't address them, our children are going to pay, and you're going to set the country on a cliff to oblivion. I mean, that was the argument of Republicans. Where has that gone?
Well, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I think you can cut taxes or make the tax cuts permanent and add other tax cuts for working class Americans. I think you can do necessary welfare reform. I think you can invest in the southern border and border security, which this bill is doing. And then you can also pay attention to spending. Now, ultimately, of the federal budget right now, like 21% of it is discretionary and the rest is just mandatory spending. So you got to tackle that down the road. This isn't a spending bill. It's a reconciliation bill, and it's largely a tax bill that makes the tax cuts permanent, adds tax cuts for working class Americans. On the Medicaid piece, though, there's obviously going to be a big debate about this. I mean, there are like almost 5 million able-bodied people on Medicaid who simply choose not to work. They spend 6 hours a day socializing and watching television. And if you can't get off grandma's couch and work, I don't want to pay for your welfare.
I don't know where you're getting those numbers from. CBO says there are 5 million Americans who are sitting on their couch watching television.
Regardless, this kicks 17
that you just cited.
This kicks.
Did you catch that? So Scott Jennings says there's 5 million Americans who are currently able-bodied and getting Medicaid, and they shouldn't be getting it. And then he said you should get off grandma's couch and get to work. Abby Phillips says, well, I don't know where you're getting those numbers. And he said, CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, they said it was, it's 4.8 million, 5 million. And Abby Phillips said, the CBO says they're sitting on grandma's couch. I mean, honestly, you need to be on the intelligence scale. After you take your IQ test, there's certain categories, there's Mensa, right? And various others. You need to be at the level of imbecile to make that argument, let alone make it on cable news live on a show that bears your name. She's the host of that show, and she just made that argument. The CBO said that there are people sitting on their grandmother's couches. I don't know how Scott Jennings tolerates it, but it gets worse. Paul Begala, I just mentioned him. He worked on the Clinton campaign. What a 1-2 punch, James Carville, Paul Begala. Oh, if you guys weren't alive back then, you don't know how glorious it was to deal with these two. But there's something happening with this guy. He's lost it. Watch what happens when Scott Jennings points out that people who are losing their Medicaid are going to be undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens who shouldn't be in the country. See, Paul Begala is trying to make the political argument that Republicans don't want to go back home and face a bunch of angry Republican voters who have been kicked off Medicaid. And Scott Jennings explains how that's not going to happen. Watch.
They're going to get soaked. They're going to punish. Look, as a partisan, it'll be great for my party. As a citizen, I hate it because they're going to hunt them down with dogs. I'm not kidding. You heard it here first. Save this tape. It's going to be a wipeout for your party, Scott, if you guys cut Medicaid for the people who voted for you.
We're not cutting Medicaid for the people who voted for us. We're cutting Medicaid for the people who vote for Democrats. The illegal aliens. That's who we're cutting Medicaid for. Look, we're cutting. No, that's the only thing we're cutting.
Seriously, there's something wrong with him. What is that? That's not normal. That's not normal. That's like screw loose behavior, right? That's psychotic. Nobody laughs like that. It was a very clever line. We're not voting it for. We're not doing it to people who voted for us. We're doing it to people who voted for Democrats, illegal immigrants. Great line, Scott Jennings. One of 1,000 a day from this guy. But watch Begala's reaction.
Medicaid for the people who voted for you.
We're not cutting Medicaid for the people who voted for us. We're cutting Medicaid for the people who vote for Democrats. The illegal aliens. That's who we're cutting Medicaid.
No, seriously. I mean, I would call in a protective order if I were Jennings. That's bizarre behavior. I would not want to walk to my car alone after that hit. Later on the same program, Scott Jennings took Begala to school about what's really going on with this bill.
This bill is a political suicide note for the Republican Party. Last time they tried this, the Democrats won 41 House seats.
Hey, can I pause for a quick second here, by the way, just in case, because we get a lot of viewers in Washington, D.C., people who hold elected office, people who are in congressional staff offices and stuff. And so I'd just like to communicate to them real fast. Guys, real fast, just you and me. I just want to make sure that I'm connecting with you. Are you listening? Please, are you watching? If you're looking to get political advice from somebody about keeping your seat and winning re-election, please don't take it from Paul Begala. Okay? This is the game he plays. Oh, I'm a political consultant. I know what's going to win an election. I know what's going to lose an election. Ask yourself, when was the last election that he worked on? If he's so smart, why didn't he work on Kamala Harris's campaign or Joe Biden's campaign or Barack Obama's campaign or Hillary Clinton's campaign? Or right? You get the point. Oh, they're going to get killed. They're going to get destroyed. Republicans shouldn't do this. They're going to get destroyed. Please do not take advice from Paul Begala. I know this may come as a shock to you. He does not have your best interests at heart. He's not giving you advice that's going to work. Okay, well, we'll go back to Paul now.
After Trump's first midterm, they'll exceed that this time. 489 days. They'll do better than 41. This is absolute death knell for the House Republicans. Maybe Senate too.
I should have started my remarks by thanking you because it was President Bill Clinton in the 90s that thought of work requirements for Medicaid.
But
Which is all
two-thirds of people on Medicaid already work.
Which is all we're doing here.
They already do it. They already do it. We did it.
If you want to get up, if you want to get up and go to work, you're going to get your Medicaid. And if you're an illegal alien, you're not going to get your Medicaid. Everybody else is going to be fine.
14
it's
million
generational
people.
welfare reform built on your all's ideas. So I thank you. I sincerely thank you.
That's right. And I, while I'm still talking to those Republican staffers and congressmen and senators, let me just tell you something. If you don't pass this bill and everyone's taxes go up at the end of the year, and Trump's promise to cut taxes on overtime and tips, et cetera, if that never happens and you're the reason for it, that's why you're going to lose. Not just re-election. You'll lose in the primary. Trust me on that. Scott Jennings has a big day yesterday, though, and I want you to see all of it because it wasn't just pushing back on all the lies about Medicaid. There was more. How about Kami Mamdani up in New York? Jennings is all over it.
But calling him a communist is not far off base when he talks about seizing the means of production. That is a communist party plank. He is talking about doing that. So I don't have any problem with calling him what he is.
And I don't have any problem calling Donald Trump a felon or charged with rape or the fact that he doesn't pay his vendors or the fact that he's racist because he elicited
he was.
So I don't have any problem. And you're right. And
As
you know
all
what?
of
You
those
may
things.
have a Democratic socialist elected as mayor of New York City.
No, you agree with Pete that he is a communist? Then?
He's not a
He's a socialist.
He said seize the means of production.
He's a socialist.
He is not a communist.
I'm not a
He's
socialist, but he
literally
calls
talking
himself.
about, he's using the language of the Bolsheviks, is he not?
He's not. He's a socialist, not a communist. Those are
Seizing the
different.
means of production.
That's called socialism, not communism.
Use that the USSR and Stone
Those are
Dormer
different
debaters.
things,
That's where you
though.
hear
I mean,
that
like,
stuff.
you
Everyone
they're
coming up next.
All right, couple things there. First of all, you see what they're doing now, right? Talk about moving the goalposts. They're doing more than that. This is what the left does in every society and culture that the left dominates. And yes, sadly, America is still one of those cultures where in some partitions they dominate, whether it's academia or entertainment or certainly the news media. At a panel discussion like this, there's only a few bastions of free speech and free thought where the left doesn't dominate. And what they do is when the definitions of words don't suit them, that's easy to fix. We'll just redefine those words. It's what they do. You control the language, you control thought, you control conversations, right? That's why there's such a push to make you use pronouns that don't make sense. So now we've always heard from the left that, oh, we're socialists, we're not communists. Communists, that's a very different thing. Communism, that's, yucky and awful, and yeah, it's bad. They have tanks, and they kill people, and they, and that's, oh, really, what's the difference between socialism and communism? Well, socialism is just, yes, a robust progressive tax system that allows the government to equitably distribute wages and resources, as well as making sure that everyone gets a fair distribution of social benefits like healthcare and education, et cetera, et cetera. That's socialism. Oh, okay, then what's communism? Communism is controlling the means of production in a society. That's communism. For all my adult life, that was the big distinction they would make. Controlling the means of production. Controlling the means of production. When you cross the Rubicon of controlling the means of production, that's when you move from Norway to North Korea, right? Controlling the means of production. Now here we've got a guy who's literally saying we need to control the means of production, and they're just going to redefine the word. Oh, controlling the means of production? That's socialism. Wait, but you said, no. That's socialism. That's just socialism.
But calling him a communist is not far off base when he talks about seizing the means of production. That is a communist party plank. He is talking about doing that. So I don't have any problem with calling him what he is.
And I don't have any problem calling Donald Trump a felon or charged with rape or the fact that he doesn't pay his vendors or the fact that he's racist because he elicited
he was.
Guys, oh my God, I can't believe we've stumbled on this. I mean, this could be a game changer too. Think about this for a minute. I hope this doesn't get out, and I hope too many people aren't watching this because this could be devastating. Guys, going forward, Democrats, people in the media, analysts, and talking heads like this, they might start calling Donald Trump a felon. They might start talking about the E. Jean Carroll case and calling him a rapist, which, by the way, George Stephanopoulos tried that, and he got sued for $15 million, and they had to settle for defamation. So you better watch yourself there, Bakari. They might start calling him a racist even. Oh, my, what are we going to do? That's it. It's over. We'll never win another election. They're going to call Donald Trump a felon, a rapist, and a racist. It's over, guys. It's over. They've got a new talking point now. They're going to use this strategy against him, and I don't even know why we're going to wake up tomorrow to try. It's over. It's absolutely devastating. Great job, Bakari. Beautiful work. Scott Jennings wasn't done. Take a little bit more.
I'm kind of with you on that, Bakari, but Scott.
I think we need restrictions on, if you're over the age of 21 and you go to Disneyland or Disney World and you don't have children, straight to Alligator Alcatraz, El Salvador.
But have you ever been to Epcot?
I'm just saying, this is weird. And talk about people that get in the way of things. You're trying to take your kids there and you got these weirdos walking around. I'm just saying.
Go to Epcot. It's great for grown-ups, okay?
Why you? I hate to say this, but I'm with Abby on this one. Meredith and I have actually spent a weekend in Epcot with no kids, and it was great. There's alcohol everywhere and really great food, and it's kind of fun. That said, Scott Jennings does have a point about especially people who go alone, adults, weirdos who go to Disney World and stand in line at the kiddie rides. That's disturbing and wrong. Here's what makes me nervous, though. We've spent a lot of time talking about how great Scott Jennings is, how if CNN had a brain in their cranium, they would give him his own show, right? Because he's the best thing that's going on over there. And clearly CNN refuses to do that. So there's good news and there's some, well, potentially troubling news. First, to the good news. Announced today, right here at Town Hall, Scott Jennings is joining our family, our larger family, Salem Media, which owns Town Hall, and this program right here. Well, Salem Media also owns a network of radio shows, syndicated radio shows, including Chris DeGaulle and Hugh Hewitt, and Mike Gallagher and Dennis Prager and Charlie Kirk. And I know I'm forgetting someone and they're going to get mad at me. Well, add Scott Jennings' name to that lineup, because the Charlie Kirk radio block is moving from noon to noon to 2 as a 2-hour radio show, and Jennings is going to start his 1-hour syndicated show from 2 to 3. He's part of our family now, and that's pretty great, and we're excited about it, and we're excited for Scott, and we're excited for Salem Radio and our company, Town Hall, because we'll certainly be featuring a lot of his show right here. Here's the possibly disturbing news. Given what he just said about adults going to Disney, we have a couple of employees at Town Hall that do this on a regular basis. I mean, an absurdly regular basis. They do not have children, and they're down in Orlando a lot. Please don't let him know this. Please don't let the word out. We don't want any conflicts. We don't want any arguments at the coffee machine during breaks. Let's just let things lie for now. And hopefully this whole thing will blow over. But either way, the most important thing is, Scott Jennings, welcome to the family. We cannot wait. Did you think about that, Kevin? You know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
We're going to have a problem, aren't we?
We might.
Don't tell him, please. Or maybe they could just change and grow up a little. We have a brand new example as to why you should hate the media, at least certain corridors of the media. We hold special vitriol for a guy named Jake Tapper. Have you heard of him? Yeah, I think you have. Jake Tapper and Joy Reid emerged this week to once again remind you why they're the worst of the worst. Joy for her own demented race-baiting reasons. But Jake Tapper, I hold a little special place for him. See, because Jake Tapper loves to lecture all of us about how to be a good journalist, about how he's objective and doesn't take sides, about how he's the last serious newsman in this town. Jake Tapper, of course, you'll remember, is also the guy who missed the story about Joe Biden's mental decline, said nothing when shows like this one and other journalists like me were pointing out the fact that Joe Biden was seriously debilitated in his ability to be president of the United States. And then he wrote a book about the exact same topic and made millions. Yeah, that guy, that Jake Tapper. Well, recently, he sat down for a podcast with Ezra Klein at the New York Times for the purpose of selling his book. And it's a funny thing about all the promotion he did to sell this book. He ends up doing these long-form interviews, and he ends up saying, I think, more than he really wants to say. So watch him tell the story about what happened behind the scenes at that infamous debate 1 year ago last week, and see if you pick up a couple of things that I picked up. I'll pause it when it happens.
Do you have that for us, Larry?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, that was a great setup, though, wasn't it? Here we go.
But what's it like for you being there? You're co-moderating that debate.
Yeah.
It begins.
He walked
Tell me
well
about your
first
experience that night.
before it begins. He is late showing up. We're in Atlanta, in a battleground state, Georgia. The Biden won in 2020 and Trump won in 2016, and both campaigns and candidates had been offered walkthroughs. Donald Trump shows, and neither of them show up on time, of course, but the time for them to show up was still, laughably early. It wasn't really necessary for them to show up as early as CNN asked them to be. But Donald Trump shows up, and whatever you think of Donald Trump, he's a pro. Which one's my camera? What if I want to ask a follow-up? What if I want this? What do I do? When he's talking, when Biden's talking, is the camera on me, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm supposed to go out. The debate's starting at 9 p.m., which, by the way, was another shocker to me when I found out that they had agreed to do a 9 p.m. debate for an hour and a half. I thought to myself, that seems late. That's late for me. Like, how is it going to be for Joe Biden? I mean, I understand Donald Trump runs on some energy force that I don't understand, but that's late. But okay, I guess they know what they're doing. I think there was a degree to which I guess they know what they're doing infected the heads of so many of us covering him.
All right. There's more to this, but this is a good place to stop and reflect a moment on the brilliance of Jake Tapper. And once again, let me remind you, he's the last remaining objective journalist in this town, and the rest of you should all be ashamed of yourselves. Did you hear what he just said? I mean, they agreed at a 9 p.m. start time, which that's late for me. I was saying, what are they thinking? What are they doing? That can't be good for Joe. He's president of the United States. I'm sorry, do wars not start at 9 p.m.? Do riots and uprisings not start at 9 p.m.? Do we not have business of state at 9 p.m.? It's a television show. And your concern is that he might not be at his best for a television show. By the way, how many people reminded us that Donald Trump is only 2 years younger than Joe Biden? But did Jake Tapper express any concern about the start time for President Trump? No. In fact, he said Trump's out there and he's a pro and he's looking at the cameras. He wants to know where to look. He wants to know what it's going to be and what's the shot going to be looking, what his camera is, what's going on, if he's going to be on shot when he's working on this energy. We just said he's got some amazing tap of energy. So why the concern for Biden? So remember how Jake Tapper told you that they missed the story of Joe Biden's decline? That, gee, shucks, man, I really did miss that story. But now in retrospect, I realize it, so I'll write a book about it. Here he is confessing in real time that he holds Donald Trump up to a different standard than Joe Biden. Why the different standard? Why is his inner monologue concerned about whether this will work for Joe, but he never had a second of concern over Donald Trump? That's number one. Number two, this whole, I guess they know what they're doing. It almost sounds like he's on their side, like he's rooting for them, right? It's almost like he's watching a football game and he's like, what are you calling that play for? I guess they know what they're doing. What are you playing that star quarterback for? I guess they know what they're doing. I guess that animated a lot of the way we covered the Biden administration. We just shrugged and said, well, they're the geniuses. I guess they know what they're doing. I mean, the mask is off. Take a look at what he's revealing to you. Listen to the language he uses. That's the thing. Jake is in this comfy spot with fellow liberal Ezra Klein talking to an audience at the New York Times so he can be real. And he can say, yeah, I guess they knew what they were doing, but I guess not. I don't know. It's like funny how they never talk this way about Donald Trump or about any Republican. But if you listen to the language and you listen to the attitude and you listen to the point of view and perspective, you would be forgiven if you thought that in some way he was working in conjunction with the White House or the Biden campaign. That's the approach he's taking here in telling this story. But then it gets worse. I'll pause 2 more times here. Watch.
Because why would you put him out there for an hour and a half debate at 9 o'clock at night when they could have agreed to a 7 p.m. debate? Because at 8:30, I'm supposed to be out on stage just sitting there and we're doing lighting and all that stuff. And I can't go out there because Joe Biden has just shown up a half hour before the debate. He's supposed to have been there hours before. And why was he so late? Because he didn't think he needed to do it. He didn't think he needed to do a walkthrough, which is crazy. Every candidate does a walkthrough. Barack Obama did walkthroughs. Like, you just do this. So he walks out, he hobbles out, he does that shifting thing, shuffling thing, seeming really old, but I had seen him, so I was not surprised.
Pause there. So he's doing the shuffling thing. Now, I had seen him already, so it didn't surprise me, but he's shuffling. Do you remember Jake Tapper ever saying anything about this to his audience? After the debate, did he ever say, well, he really looked old and he shuffles out? He doesn't walk normally, he shuffles out. Or, he says he's seen it before. So did he ever point it out to his audience? We did here. When we pointed out the weird way he was walking on the way to Marine One at the South Lawn, whenever he was heading out somewhere, when he would shuffle along and they had to give him the special shoes, that looked like he was, wearing kayaks on each foot. When he would stop and squat like he was, dropping a load in his Depends. You remember all that stuff that we would have fun with, but we would also point out the fact that something ain't right about this guy. We would do that stuff. We were told we were looking at videos that were cheap fakes, that were manipulated. Did Jake Tapper ever talk about this? Now it can be told a year later that Jake Tapper thought there was something odd or wrong about the way he moved and the way he walked. But where was he at the time? Where was he when it mattered? Where was he when it was news? Sorry, Jake, it's not news now. He dropped out of the campaign a year ago, and he hasn't been president for 6 months. This isn't news. If you want to be a historian, go ahead, be a historian. But you're not working in news by telling us the story a year later. Back then, it was news, and he didn't say a thing. Why? Because it would have helped Trump. It would have hurt Biden. So he didn't say anything. Okay, go ahead, Jake. Please continue with the story now that it can be told.
He starts talking. He obviously has a cold. He sounds awful. His voice is already thinner and reedier than it had been. But now it's really bad. His first answer is whatever, it's fine, serviceable. But then he gets to that horrible answer where he completely loses his train of thought.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicaid, beat it to death.
And we have these iPads, and I wrote to the control room, holy smokes. And Dana writes to me on a piece of paper, he just lost the election.
Dana writes on a piece of paper, he just lost the election. Which, again, great little insight between how the two little anchors pass notes to each other and share their little secrets and all that stuff. And here's Dana, she just lost the election. Fascinating, though. Again, I'll remind you that these are the kind of journalists who continue to claim that they don't have any sort of prejudgments or any sort of, opinion, that they're not in the business of taking one side or the other, and they just deal in facts, and their personal feelings in no way affects their journalism. So Dana Bash, on that evening, June 26th, I want to say, of 2024 as a co-moderator of the debate, 2 questions in, passes a note where she is now of the opinion that Joe Biden has just lost the election. Joe Biden was the candidate for another 3.5 to 4 weeks, I believe it was. And Dana Bash continued to host programs on CNN while holding that opinion. Her opinion hadn't changed. Dana Bash thought that Joe Biden had already lost the election. So how did Dana Bash cover the Biden campaign? How did Dana Bash cover the Biden presidency? How did Dana Bash cover the Trump campaign, for that matter? She had plenty of interviews. She had plenty of guests. She had plenty of opportunities to communicate to her audience what she saw, what she observed, and the conclusion she reached. And she never did she? In fact, I bet if you go back and look at her conduct in July, she bent over backwards to try to boost this guy up and help him out. She certainly never used her platform to explore the concerns any further. This is what happened in real time during this debate. Jake Tapper's telling the story like, oh, this is clever, this is cute. No, actually, it reveals exactly who you are and how deceitful your entire industry is. It's just another reason never to watch these people again. Instead, you could go to independent media and watch someone like this. Joy Reid is loving her time on Substack now because she's free of the editorial constraints of corporate media coming from NBC News and MSNBC, so she can say anything she wants. You thought she was a Looney Tune back when she worked at MSNBC? Get a load of this.
But this aggressive move to deport any brown or black person that this regime can get their hands on in order to meet Stephen Miller's 3,000 brown person a day quota. They have a literal quota that ICE is required to meet, which is the reason why they are stopping and frisking brown, particularly brown people, but brown and black people anywhere they can get them. Dodger Stadium, the parking lot at Disneyland, at restaurants, Home Depots, warehouses, anywhere they can get them.
Stephen Miller has a 3,000 brown person a day quota for deportation, says Joy Reid. I want you to remember that just 5 months ago, she was an employee in good standing at NBC News. Do you think suddenly over the last 5 months she's changed and become some sort of, crazy radical with these ideas? Or do you think maybe this was her attitude back when she had that little peacock on the screen instead of her own AI-generated ChatGPT logo? Oh, but there was more from Joy, and I want to share it with you.
I had to forget about him, but Ron DeSantis is still governor of Florida. He took the Comfy Couch hosts on a tour of the concentration camp that he's building in Florida in order to round up brown people, and throw them in a camp because he doesn't want them in Florida. Surprise, surprise, the economy of Florida is going to be severely harmed by rounding up brown people who, by the way, all over this country, Latinos are afraid to go to work. Anybody who is perceived or looks Latino is afraid to go to work. I know people who are...
There you go. They're rounding up brown people and throwing them in the concentration camp, she says. Concentration camp, which, by the way, is an insult to anyone who actually holds in reverence the hallowed ground of Auschwitz or any other actual concentration camp where millions of lives were lost. To compare what happened in the Third Reich during the Holocaust to this facility for detention in Florida that was just constructed is insulting and despicable. But she's Joy Reid after all. And if she can't divide on the basis of race and skin color, she'll do it on the basis of religious faith and ethnicity as well. It's what she does. It's what she knows. It's, well, how she gets her payday. That's Joy Reid for you, who once again doubles down on the notion that if you get rid of all the illegal immigrants, well, the economy is going to tank because they're doing all the hard work here. What are we going to do without our slaves? Because that's how Democrats have talked for, well, about a century and a half, maybe 2 centuries now. Meanwhile, there is some good news on the media front. We woke up this morning with this headline. Donald Trump, who was suing CBS News for election interference over their manipulated editing of the Kamala Harris interview on 60 Minutes, CBS offered a $15 million settlement a month ago, and Trump said no, not just no, hell no. And they agreed overnight to double that, a $30 million settlement payment for their manipulation of the interview of Kamala Harris during the campaign. That money will go to the Trump Presidential Library. I hope he puts up a plaque. You know, this wing paid for by CBS fake news. It would be hilarious. Not only do they pay the settlement, they also have a brand new standard at CBS News. They're calling it the Trump Rule. The Trump Rule states that when a candidate for president is interviewed by CBS News, if that interview is edited, CBS News shall release the full transcript of that interview in due time. They refused to release the full transcript of the 43-minute sit-down they had with Kamala Harris that got edited down to 20 minutes. In other words, over half of the conversation with the woman who wanted to be president of the United States was scrapped. And CBS News refused to let you see what was in that edited video. However, thanks to Maze Moore on X, which is an account you should subscribe to, I do, Maze found the original clip that they had released over the weekend before it aired in October, and then saw that they had manipulated the answer when it finally aired on Monday night. If Maze Moore on X had not put out this side-by-side comparison, I don't think we would have really known what 60 Minutes did. I don't think Trump would have won this settlement from CBS News. I want to remind you of how bad it was.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Same question, two very different answers. The first one was nonsensical word salad that made her sound like a moron. The second one, a little less so, certainly more concise, and sounded like a determined commander-in-chief and head of state. 60 Minutes made that choice for a reason. They claim it's just for timing purposes and expediency. No, they did it to make her look good. They did it to manipulate the election. Now, the settlement with the Trump people does not involve any acknowledgement that they did anything wrong or that they breached any journalistic standards or ethics, although their acknowledgement that from this point forward they will release the entire transcript of their interviews if they edit them, that's tantamount to an admission that they did something wrong here, at the very least by withholding the full transcript from the American people prior to the election. They didn't release the full thing until FCC Chairman Brendan Carr forced them to do it. But there's something more at play here, actually, that's really important to point out. I believe I pointed it out at the time. 60 Minutes will claim that, hey, listen, yes, it was a 43-minute interview, and we only showed 20 minutes of it, but that's because it's the attention span of the American people. They just can't sit still for an entire 43-minute conversation with the person who wants to be president. It's not our fault. They're constantly flipping the channel. They don't have a long attention span. They just won't sit for a full 43-minute conversation. Because, the obvious response that we would have is, why are you editing at this at all? Ask the candidate the questions, tape the answers, and then just run the full interview. Now, most media outlets do, in fact, edit things like this for the purposes of timing and commercial breaks and all that stuff. But you know what they do, at least for the last 20 years? They've been posting the full thing on the internet. Here's our edited version, but if you want to watch our full conversation, come to our website. It makes sense, actually, for those people who don't have a short attention span. They'll actually get informed and they'll sit and they'll watch the entire thing. Also, it drives traffic to your website. That's a revenue builder for you, CBS News. Sorry for giving you a tip, but you know, this is the business I'm in. And by using your platform on network television to direct people to your website to watch your video, there's some money in it for you. So why didn't they do it? They're not stupid. Why didn't they put the full interview on the web for people who want to see it to see it? And the answer is they didn't want you to see it. Not for commerce, not for journalism, not for newsworthiness, not for expedience. They didn't want you to see it because they knew it would help Trump. They knew it would hurt Kamala Harris. That's why. And now, thanks to Trump fighting for you, and by the way, fighting for the First Amendment, because nothing undermines freedom of the press like this kind of crap. Because he fought and because he won, now the voting public will be better informed. They can't do this kind of thing anymore because of their settlement. One more sort of interesting visual aid here as to how 60 Minutes and CBS News does this all the time. Take a look at this. I hope it's big enough that you can zoom in on it. This was a 60 Minutes interview with Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, when Ron DeSantis was seen as potentially the next president of the United States. Take a look at this interview, this written transcript here, and you see the words that are in bold and you see the words that are not in bold. It's about 50-50, right, in this conversation? What's in bold is what made it on the air. What's in regular typeface is what got edited out. And it turns out this was an interview about a donation made by the Publix store to the DeSantis campaign. And then they explore what the DeSantis government administration did to help Publix out in 60 Minutes opinion with regard to a program in the state. It's not true, actually. There were other drugstores that also benefited from the same program, but they just wanted to focus on Publix because they thought they had a criminal activity, a crime of pay for play for the governor. Publix gives you $100,000, then you do this for them, but he actually did it for all the stores in Florida. That's not the point. They manipulated the interview. They edited out a ton of Governor DeSantis's explanation and answer to make him look bad, because that's what they do. That's what they've been doing. That's what they've been doing for decades. And they did it right up until the point where one man decided to finally fight back. He'd had enough. His name is Donald Trump. He's the president of the United States. And now he's got a settlement with ABC News. He's got a settlement now with CBS News. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of waiting for the trifecta. Let's go. We want the Triple Crown. I hope that Peacock network is ready to open up its wallet, because they're coming next, and it's going to be glorious. All right, that's our show today. Oh, we went a little long. I'm sorry, but we had some good content, and we had a lot of stuff to get through. So I'm not going to sorry. You know what? I'm not sorry. I will not apologize for giving you all this glorious Larry. I meant the show, not me. Although... Potato. Tara Kersey with a $2 super chat wants to say, love you, Larry. Well, I love you back in a very, admiring and almost cousin-like fashion. Not cousins like, Ilhan Omar kind of cousins. I mean, because, I'm married and you could very well be married too. Either way, love you right back. Tara, thank you very much. That's kind of you. Ball State alum with a $10 super chat. I preferred Thad McCotter's speech with Led Zeppelin lyrics in it. At least he had a good rhythm. I forgot all about that. That was actually hilarious. Thad McCotter, I miss him. Michigan congressman, used to write at the Breitbart. I used to hang out with Breitbart all the time back in the day. Thank you, Ball State, for a walk down memory lane. You're always good for that. What else we got? Captain Patriot. Wait, the Captain Patriot? $2 super chat. Illegals, laziness. That is who loses Medicaid. That's 100% right. Scott Jennings had that great. Listen, you're in the country legally and you need Medicaid because you can't get a work or you're unable to find a job and you're a mother with children and there's no man in the house, you're going to get your Medicaid. But if you can work and you're not working, yeah, you bet your ass you're going to lose it. That's how it goes. Thank you, Captain Patriot. Another $10 super chat from Ball State alum. Don't forget the leader of the Lollipop Guild, Robert Reich. Are we? Oh, because I was naming so many people from the 90s. Yeah, we really did have a great time in the 90s, didn't we? That's why Rush Limbaugh became the giant that he was. He was the lone voice there during the Clinton years, and he was brilliant. Thank you, Ball State, for the reminder. Yes. Reich. Richard Murray with a $10 super chat. Grocery stores are not a means of production. Socialists claim to only want to control the means of productions like factories and farms. Communists seek to control everything like grocery stores. That's right. Although I don't ever think socialists necessarily claim to want to control the means of production, because like you go to a socialist country like Sweden and you know Nokia or Ericsson, I guess is the Swedish company, that's not owned by the government. But in a communist state, it would be. In China, you know, it is. But again, the whole point is they're trying to redefine the words now and say that controlling the means of production. Oh, that's just like wanting to have, you know, a robust nationalized healthcare system. That's all. No difference. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate the $10 super chat. And do we also have a $5 super chat from Arthur Brogdon over at Rumble. Larry, the mainstream media is the very definition of controlling the means of production. Of course, they're moving the goalposts. That's a great point. That's a great point. It's like government-controlled, state-run media, 100%. Although they've got their version of that too, NPR and PBS. And look what's happening if you try to get rid of it. Thank you, Arthur, for that. And thank you, everybody else, for watching today. Are we missing anything? Are we forgetting anything? Kevin. We're good?
We're good.
All right. Have you cleaned out an office space for Jennings there?
Not yet.
All right. We'll get to that. All right, guys. Thanks for watching today. We had a great time. We'll be back tomorrow. I want to tell you in advance, though, even though we've started our Friday shows now, we're not going to have one this week because it's Independence Day. Oh, and another pointer. Don't call it the 4th of July. I know it's fun to say Happy 4th, but 4th of July, that's like it's Christmas time saying Happy December 25th. It's like it's Independence Day. Let's not lose the meaning. We're celebrating our independence from those lousy Brits. So call it what it is. But we'll be back tomorrow before your Independence Day. In the meantime, thanks for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.